Another very important tip that I've learned when dealing with the police is speak specifics about the law. Sometimes they'll say, well, people just don't like this, or I think it's time for you to leave, or maybe this isn't a good idea. Sometimes the officer will say, well, I'm a Christian, and I just don't think this is the right way for you to reach people. You need to get not to opinions, but to the law, and say, well, what law am I breaking? Have I done anything illegal? And sometimes they'll say no. And they just have an opinion that there's a better way to reach people, or that you just shouldn't be doing it. But sometimes they'll say things like, well, if you don't leave, then I'll arrest you. And then you'll find out in your court papers what law you were breaking. And I've had officers tell me that many times. And in that case, then you ask, so are you telling me if I do not leave, I will be arrested? I don't mind leaving. I just want to clarify, if I don't leave, you're telling me I'll be arrested. And as soon as there's a threat of arrest, then you have a basis for a lawsuit. Then your rights have been violated. So you need to specify specifically what law am I breaking, because if they don't apply a specific law, then you cannot challenge that application of the law in a lawsuit. And you also need to ask, what happens if I keep preaching? What happens if I don't leave? Because once there's that threat of arrest, you have a basis for a lawsuit. If at all possible, avoid being arrested. You don't need to be arrested to have a lawsuit. All you need is a threat of arrest. A threat of arrest is all you need. So you don't need to go to jail. You don't need to see a prosecutor. You don't need to go to court. You don't need a charge on your record. All you need is an officer to threaten you with arrest. So when I talk to the police, I often say, listen, well, I'll leave if you're threatening me with arrest. I just have a few questions to clarify about the situation. I just have a few questions to get a better understanding. And then I continue to ask them the questions we've been talking about. What law is it that I'm breaking? And, what happens if I don't leave? And so, don't feel bad about walking away. Don't feel bad about leaving to avoid arrest. The Bible tells us to flee persecution. Of course, we're willing to go to jail. And of course, if preaching ever did become illegal in this country, then we ought to be willing to go to jail. We ought to be willing to suffer for Christ and to count it a joy. But if we can flee persecution and go preach somewhere else, well, that's a better option. I'd rather go to the next town or go to the next campus than to be stuck in a county jail and then have to come back months later to see a judge and have this long, drawn-out process. And I've been on probation for preaching over a case that I ended up losing in the very early days. And it's just a big hassle. And it costs money and it takes time. And it's just not a lot of fun. And it hinders preaching. It hinders your ability to outreach. And so if you can avoid being arrested, by all means, do it. We see Paul in the book of Acts who was fleeing persecution. He was dropped out of a window in a basket to flee persecution. Christ said, if they persecute you in one city, just go to another. And so, don't feel bad about walking away. But as soon as they threaten you with arrest, you have a basis for a lawsuit. You don't need to be arrested. You can walk away at that point, contact a Christian attorney, and then let the legal system take its course. Now, one of the very good reasons why you should avoid being arrested is because getting arrested really slows down the legal process of a lawsuit. You'll have to get the criminal charges cleared and taken care of before you can pursue a lawsuit. On the other hand, if they threaten to arrest you and then you leave, then you can file a lawsuit right away. So avoiding arrest really speeds up the legal process so that you can deal with it in a quicker fashion.